Hello class, hope all of you are having a great day. I'm going to quickly bring up a quote from a PBS documentary that interviewed NFL players that talked about their concussions throughout their career and how it shaped the conversation of concussions in NFL. The quote comes from a former Oakland Raider player named Tony Stewart, in which he says, "I've had times where I walked up to the line where I know the play but don't know what to do." Hi, my name is Adrian Castillo, and today I'm going to talk about concussions in NFL. My goal today is to inform all of you of why concussions are a problem in NFL, and I'm going to do that by discussing what a concussion is and why it's relevant to the NFL. Two specific examples of a former and a current NFL player that dealt with concussions and the rise of the conversation CTE that was tied with them. And three, I'm going to talk about the solutions that the NFL took in order to handle the concussion problem. So after researching medical websites that help me define what a concussion is and what CTE is, and after researching into sports journalists that help break down these two specific former and current NFL players that dealt with concussions, and after also myself have witnessed these concussions in the NFL games, I feel like I am qualified to deliver this speech of concussions in the NFL. So without further ado, let me go to my first main point, which can be quickly described that concussions are dangerous and that they're inevitable in the game of football. First of all, according to CDC.gov, which is a public health agency, a concussion is a type of traumatic brain injury caused by a bump, blow, jolt, or by a hit to the body that causes the head and the brain to move back and forth. So now knowing what a concussion is, I'm going to discuss why is it relevant to the NFL. Well, the NFL is a professional league that their players play American football. American football is a violent sport that consists of opponents trying to tackle each other and prevent each other from scoring the ball by any means necessary. And according to Cognitive FX, the reason why concussions are relevant in the NFL because there's common ways to receive a concussion by playing the American football. And the three common ways, once again listed by Cognitive FX, it states that the three common ways to obtain a concussion is by a helmet-to-helmet hit, tackling each other with a huge amount of force, and three is by dragging an opponent to the ground in which their head hits the ground very hard. Because of those three common ways of obtaining a concussion in the NFL, there are statistics backing up of how frequent it can be. According to ESPN article by Kevin Seifert, he states that regular season concussions in the 2022 season saw an 18% increase compared to the previous season. So after discussing what is a concussion and how common and why is it relevant to the NFL, I'm going to talk about now the two specific examples of the NFL players having a concussion and why arose the fear of CTE. So in order to understand what CTE is and why I'm bringing it up in a concussion speech, according to Mayo Clinic, CTE is a brain disorder likely caused by repeated head injuries. It causes the death of nerve cells in the brain. So knowing that CTE can be obtained by repeated head injuries, and knowing that concussion is a head injury, that's why there's a lot of talks of why we have to be careful of protecting the NFL players of not receiving a concussion. But that wasn't always the case. I'm going to talk about Mike Webster, and it was broken down by Hendon Law about his life. And he played in the 1970s, and he was a Pittsburgh Steeler, and he played offensive lineman, and he experienced a lot of concussions and a lot of dangerous hits throughout his career. And reported by Hendon Law, it was said that he turned crazy after his career because he was taking so many hits. And in the same article, Dr. Amalu, the doctor that examined his brain after Mike Webster died at the age around 50, they discovered that his brain was diagnosed with CTE. And I remember reading that Dr. Amalu compared the brain of Mike Webster of a person going through 25,000 automobile crashes. That's how bad Mike Webster's brain was, just because of concussions. And ever since that findings and that news broke about Mike Webster, CTE, it was now tied with the concussion problem in the NFL. So, to talk about that issue even further, I have to bring up the example of Tua Tagovailoa. I hope I said his name right. Tua is the current quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, and I remember last season, in the 2022 NFL season, he experienced back-to-back injuries with his head in less than 1 week. I remember seeing him on a Sunday game, an opponent dragged him to the ground, and he hit his head on the ground, which caused him to have a brain injury, because when he tried to get up, he was stumbling and he could not walk in his own 2 feet. And the NFL commentator said, "Oh, that might have been a concussion, or he's concussed." But they ruled it a back injury, which allowed him to practice and play on the following game that happened like 3 or 4 days later. And a lot of people were very against it. They had a problem with it. And when Tua played in that second game, once again he got injured, but this time his reaction was very different. And he couldn't even stand up on his 2 feet. When he was tackled incorrectly and was concussed, his hands were very tight, and it was a very scary scene to see, and a lot of people were worried about him. And that caused the whole NFL world, a lot of sports journalists, a lot of media members in ESPN that have talk show hosts, to talk about the situation, being against the Miami Dolphins, the medical staff, of allowing them to play. They were blaming the NFL that they were not careful with their concussion protocol and failing in Tua. So because of these two examples, the conversation of concussions in the NFL is a big deal. So after explaining what a concussion is and why it's relevant to the NFL, after bringing up these two examples, it's now time to talk about what the NFL has been doing to solve their concussion problem. So in the own words of the NFL, I looked up at their website called NFL Operations, in which they list a rule change and a new design of helmets that will help solve, or at least try to attempt to solve, the concussion problem in the league. And the use of helmet rule explained once again in NFL Operations. The use of helmet rule will discipline and punish players that would use their helmet to make contact with another player's helmet in order to tackle them. And that basically, what that means is that if a referee sees a player use their helmet to tackle someone and hit them in the head, the referee will penalize them and most likely fine them after the game, and that incentivizes people to play more safe and to think about of how they use their helmet. And in the same website, the NFL has stated that they have hired a lot of medical experts, and they have researched and tried to design new helmets that will best protect the players from obtaining a concussion. And finally, I want to talk about what I saw with the NFL share in social media, and they have stated that they have given a lot of teams cushion, like their actual cushion on top of their helmets in practices, so they can decrease and solve the issue of concussions that arose in practice and in any type of setting that involves with the NFL, because they really want to get on helping the players and protecting them. So after explaining what a concussion is, explaining why it's relevant to the NFL, after bringing up these two examples of the former and current NFL player, of what they went through with concussions and the fear of CTE, and after discussing the NFL solutions of what they have tried to do, my goal here was to inform you guys of the concussion problem in the NFL, and I believe I've covered everything that I possibly can. I believe I try to provide the best context I can possibly give. So what I just want to leave the message is that we have to protect these players because they're humans, and their health should come first, and no one wants to see anyone go crazy after a career of any kind. So it's best to protect these players, and let's try to support them. So thank you for watching. Hope all of you have a great day. Thank you.